Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, 10:03. And we need, is there anyone that wants to put anything else on the agenda? Is there any other items that we need to include? Greg?
I would like just to, if somebody could fill me in on the meetings in Edmonton, the Ag Service Board Convention. I wasn't there. If just talk something a little bit, tell me what was, I know you wrote in your report a little bit, but not,
Yeah, we can.
just to add a
expand
little
on
bit
that.
to it, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we could do that in 8.1, right? Maybe board member reports and questions?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
All in favor? Are you there, Devin? Gary? All right. 3.1, January 11th, 2022 minutes. Is there anything in there that is notable?
There is one error that was pointed out by our member at large, it's not here, Linda,
Okay.
and that is motion 1507-22 on top of page 6.
Yep.
That should read January 17th, 2022 instead of 2021.
Oh, okay. Okay, so could we have a motion to have the minutes adopted as corrected?
I'll do that.
Great. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the 20, I guess the delegations, we'll just have to wait with that until Carol comes, so we can just carry on. So let's go to the 5.1 then, of the club route management plan rotations, so if you can go ahead with that, Dawn.
Sure, so, at the last meeting, we had a discussion about our club route management plan and our policy that's in place, and, the board requested more information as to what other municipalities are doing, and also what the spore load level would be after a couple of years of rest. So we do have that listed on page 14 as to what surrounding municipalities are doing. So majority, as you can see, are doing a 1 in 4 rotation, which is what the Club Route Management Plan of Alberta is a recommendation for. Additionally, I reached out to Dr. Steven Strelkoff, who is a club route researcher, and he quoted a few papers, a few studies that had been done, and he said that the research that has been done is showing that about a 90% reduction in spore loads after 2 years of rest. So that would be a minimum of 1 in 3 rotation. So, and I did also hear from another researcher, Victor Manoli. I don't believe he's a doctor. Anyway, he also concurred to those numbers, but maybe erred a little on the more conservative side. His numbers were more 75 to 85%. So, yeah, and then I threw in the Club Route 101 article just as information, just some of the ways that we kind of promote trying to prevent club route spread. So that's what we found out for details. I don't know if you guys had any further questions about that or wanted any additional information.
Great.
So, do we know does like the third year, so 90% is pretty high, I think, in 2 years, like it drops.
Mm-hmm.
So is it worth the extra year to tell farmers they can't grow canola to for that 10%? Does the third year go up to 92% or 96%, or does it go 91%? If it does only go up 1% or so, I don't see the reason why we should stay at 1 and 4. I'm not a big canola grower fan, so, but I'm a canola grower either, but it doesn't, like the numbers say it's after 2 years, it's pretty substantial. Now, is it worth it to tell farmers that they can't grow it in, they gotta wait 3 years before they can grow it again? Do we know any numbers on that at all, Dawn?
No, I don't know what the third year would bring.
Yeah,
So that would be, if you had a third year in there, that would bring it to the 1 and 4 year rotation.
yes,
So the 2 years is doing a 1 and 3 rotation.
Yes.
1 and 3 year rotation.
yes.
So I don't think it would be that much less. Like those spores can stay in the soil for 20 years,
I know.
right? So it could drop an extra percentage or two.
So is it,
Mind you, given that,
is that enough to,
well, and now this is also considered, this is like perfect conditions, these research papers that are done. So there are no, and no brassicaceae, no cruciferous plants in those fields. There's no stinkweed, there's no wild mustard, there's no anything. So these would not be the field numbers that we would see.
yep,
So that's like, ideally, yes, 90% drop if you've got nothing there to where the spores can propagate. So I don't think in the field situation, this would be the case at 90%.
no, but it would still be pretty high, I think, because of the fact the way, with chemicals and stuff they use nowadays when we're spraying canola, like if you're using the Roundup, it's killing everything except for, or pretty much,
Yeah,
and same
but
with
you
Liberty and whatever else too.
You'll still have stuff on the headlands and that kind of thing too, so.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's, yeah. From my perspective, like I said, this would not be perfect, this would be perfect conditions, not field conditions.
Would there be any, because I was amazed at how many spores were per grain of soil in that 101 that I read. Is there any research, like, I think I know what Greg's getting at, is that in order for us to understand this a little better, is there any research that we can find that would have a look at, the different situations? How do they test? Like, I don't even know how they test those fields. Like how do you test your field after a year or two, like, to get that information? Like, is there something a service board can do to start having a look at that kind of stuff?
There would be soil sampling that would be done, yes.
I
We
think that
did.
gets pretty involved though, if you gotta start, we'd have to probably hire more people to come and start doing tests after the 2 years just to see if you can do it. No, I'm fine with the 1 and 4 year rotation, I just wanna make sure it's, like, the difference between 1 and 3 and 1 and 4 is substantial.
Yeah.
If we were just saying that's because, but if it doesn't, 90% to me is quite high, like, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Al?
And that number jumped out at me as well, Greg. Does it go from 90 to 99 or 90 to 90.5?
Yeah, that's,
That being said, am I right in assuming that the policy that Woodlands developed was based on the management plan that came down from the province?
Absolutely.
And you look at the surrounding municipalities, and they're all 1 and 4 except for Parkland, that's 1 and 5. When were these policies put into effect? Was it 20 years ago, 10 years ago?
No, it wasn't 20 years, probably. I would say, I can't remember exactly the date on the policy, but probably in the last 10 years.
And has it the recommendation from the province always been 1 and 4? It hasn't ramped up? Okay, thanks. I agree with Craig. It just, if you can give producers an opportunity to rotate quicker and you're not creating a problem for the area, then I don't know why we wouldn't do that, but in your email, he references a study 2015, and then it was substantiated in 2019. And yet, somebody else that you spoke to had a contradictory opinion.
Well, it wasn't really contradictory, it was just, he erred a little more on the conservative side. And I think of a different, because he did quote this same study. And it was probably more of a different perspective, because he does a lot of field work, that gentleman.
Okay.
So I think that's why he erred on the side of caution a little bit. But again, he did quote the Quebec study to be fair, so.
So, and again, another question for the uneducated here. In your opinion, I hate to put you on the spot, but let's suggest that we change to 1 in 3 years. How long do you think it would take before you'd see the effects of 1 in 3 versus 1 in 4, assuming there'd be a negative effect?
I don't know if you'd see a huge negative effect, to be honest. It is only a 1-year difference, so the reason they put in the 1 in 4, I believe, is just to make sure there is maximum rotation. Basically, as long as you are doing a rotation and not canola snow, then I think you will see some results and some reduced amount of clubroot infestation. The longer that rotation is, the less you're going to have as far as continual infestation on the plants, on the canola plants. And then you're not gonna see as high of a yield decrease based on that infestation. So that's, the 1 in 4, I think, was just to maximize that rotation amount, or the rotation. So a 1 in 3, you're still getting a fairly good rotation. Obviously, the numbers do show there's going to be a significant decrease in that first 2 years, so.
And have we had pushback from our area producers?
Not a lot. I mean, there's been some that have said, well, how come we have to, first of all, how come we have to rotate? And I'm going, that's your choice. Poor management, but your choice, if that's the way you choose to go. And I don't think we have a lot of people doing that, canola on canola. There are a few, and they also have other mitigation strategies that they do. So, we don't enforce, like, if you have the club root on your property, yeah, well, we haven't ever destroyed a crop if they planted canola the following year. I don't know if that would be something the board would support, us going in and destroying a crop. So I've never really enforced to that level. Yeah, I phoned them and said, hey, you're not supposed to be growing canola. Think about your rotations a little longer, but.
I guess the balance that we have to strike here is, if, the problem with spores is they go everywhere.
Yes.
And so, we have to make sure that the regulatory process covers the neighbor as well. So my question would be, just as and this is because I don't know how this extends into the marketplace, but is there an ability for canola to be tested for clubroot spores if we export?
The clubroot doesn't go onto the seed.
Okay,
It's attacking the roots of the plant.
but it probably affects the quality of the seed.
It'll affect the quality and the yield,
Okay.
because the plants are not able to get the nutrients as sufficiently. So yeah, you'll have like smaller than normal seeds, maybe even like shriveled seeds.
Yeah.
Looks like pepper
Yeah.
instead of canola.
Okay. Well, I guess, for the purposes of this meeting, we've had this discussion, and I think it's something that we should probably, if there's any new research that comes in, that we should be able to communicate that to our producers.
Yep.
So. Okay.
Honestly, that being said, for right now, I guess we'll make the motion that the Agricutural the Ag Service Board accepts the canola watch article surrounding municipalities' club route management rotation data and Dr. Stephen Strelkov's responses information.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Bert's here now. Do we want to get into our delegation stuff yet, or should we wait for a bit more?
Well, we have our
When is-
delegation scheduled for 10:30.
10:30?
And
Okay.
Carol hasn't joined us yet, so,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Okay, we'll carry on then. Okay, 6.1. VSI, fourth quarter report. Can you do that for us? I think it's Devin that's on our VSI committee, correct? So maybe you and Devin can fill us in on that.
I'm not sure I don't know if Counselor Williams has seen this report other than
Oh,
in here,
Okay,
because he doesn't get direct
Oh,
communication
okay.
from them, so it's all comes through the administration, so.
Yeah,
um,
I read through it, but yeah, this document was not, yeah, I only seen it when you guys did, so I think Don would probably be better to explain it, but I can add in where I can.
okay, thanks, Devin.
So basically, it's just our report saying how much our expenditures were for 2021. And so we do have a bit of a balance left over, that $3,926. In addition to that, there is an overall increase in fees. And there's also the administrative charges on top of that, so we're still sitting at the $3,926 to be exact, but so you can see that our fourth quarter claims are a bit higher than they were in 2020. It's in Rick's letter there. And then you've got a listing of all the services that were provided for our ratepayers. And then lastly is the requisition for the upcoming year. So our requisition for the upcoming year is where are we? Well, 26,000, but then we take off what we have as our overage. So our full ask is going to be our 24,500. So we have budgeted in the 2020 budget for 24,000 even, just $24,000. But there is some advertising costs that we can include to cover the rest of this. So the $500 extra is not gonna be a big deal, but for next year, I'm going to include more into the budget because of those increased Alberta Veterinary Medical Association costs. They approved that in the I think in the annual meeting, if I'm not mistaken, Councilor Williams, is that correct?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, you're correct.
So,
And just for the purpose of budgeting, that meeting takes place after you present a budget to this board and then it goes on to council.
yeah, it does, it's kind of inconvenient as to the timing, but that works for them for the year end and,
Sure.
and getting all of that, their reports, annual reports together. So it's an educated guess when I put it forward to
Yeah.
council.
And
So-
bearing in mind that we pass an interim budget,
Mhm.
right? So we
Yeah.
can always make that, a minor adjustment like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But the second question I have with respect to budgeting is historically, is a 3% increase, is that usual year over year, or does it happen every once in a while?
No, they don't. It's typically, we haven't seen a huge increase in the recent past. For example, we've been budgeting $24,000 from the instigation of this program,
Oh, yeah,
and we've never gone over budget
sure.
yet. That being said, we do have a lot of people participating in the program, a lot of producers. So I believe we're at 150 something for producers that are participating.
Good.
So that's pretty awesome. And if we can promote herd health and help them out with some of their costs, I think that's definitely worth putting in the money. And then part of this funding is accounted for in our Ag Service Board budget as well, or not, our Ag Service Board grant. We do get a portion of this money from that grant. I can't tell you exactly how much because the grant is kind of based on our activities overall, and they just kind of shoot us a lump sum. They don't say for this, this, and this, so we're allowed to divvy it out basically wherever, but.
And those funds are being held by the VSI board, not internally here, like we send them a check for
Yeah.
whatever the requisition is.
Yeah, so fairly expediently, have you done the check rec? No? Yeah, okay, so we have done the check requisition for this already, for the funding, and yeah, he holds the funding, and the VSI actually pays out directly to the producers that way.
Right.
We don't have to do any of that paperwork, so, yeah.
And if there's, if we don't spend our entire budget, it's held there and.
Yeah, and that's what that $600 is that he was saying is our, the extra that we have.
So I guess I'd just make a recommendation to the board, or something to think about at least, is that next year, if we seem to be getting good uptake from our producers, like maybe we do want to anticipate a 3% increase, because I'd hate to get caught, all of a sudden we're short $4,000 or $5,000 and then,
Yeah, and to add to that too is that I think when I see 150 producers accessing that program, that's a substantial group of producers within the boundaries. And the reason for this the big reason is herd health and overall herd health, so we really need to make sure we stay on top of that.
And it does assist a lot because we do pay for 50% of those procedures, right? So
Yeah.
that's a big chunk of
If I could add,
money.
Yeah, go ahead, Devin.
sorry, I can't put my hand up. I just called in because my internet was being terrible. But what I was going to say too is when we were in the VSI annual meeting, Woodlands County is one of the closest in budgeting out of any municipality in Alberta. I can't remember exactly what the percentage was, but some are out like 40% of what they budget, either under or over. And Woodlands County historically has been very close. So I think Don does a really good job, or maybe we're really consistent. Like you said, the 24,000, I guess it doesn't move around a whole bunch, but we're really consistent here versus a lot of the municipalities in Alberta.
All right. Dave?
I'll make a motion the Ag Service Board accept the VSI fourth quarter reporter's information.
Any more discussion? Al?
Can we note in there, for budgeting purposes, perhaps look at a cost of living raise increase for next year?
Don't want to be able to put a note, we want that in the budget or just a note to administration?
I have written it down, but can we put it into the, Jen will add it into the motion.
Okay.
All right, question, all in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Okay, the 6.2, the Ag Service Board blog website PDF.
So at the Ag Service Board conference, the provincial conference that we attended, I believe it was during the resolution session. At the when the chair was introducing the session, he mentioned the Provincial Ag Service Board website and that people should check it out and sign up for blog notifications and such. So I believe Councillor Dean suggested that we talk about that here at the meeting. And rather than going through doing a live demonstration, I thought I would do some screenshots just to show you guys what is there, and then you guys can take that and do some playing with it later on. So at the very top there on page 24, you see the link for the webpage. So, and then you land on that, the next screenshot there. So as you go down, and I've done a shot for each of the drop-down menus. So, there will be things on this website as far as regulations, fact sheets, there is the resolutions, an historical account of the resolutions, as well as the current resolutions and what they've heard back from the various departments that those resolutions were sent to. You can see at the, where did that say, sorry, I'm just looking where, so when you go to the bottom of page 25, nope, I lied. The bottom of page 26 is where you would sign up to enter your email address to receive notifications about things that change. So you just have to scroll down a little bit on that home page to get to the spot where you would enter your email address. But yeah, so there's a lot of information there, and definitely worth taking a look at it. It's just, like I said, it would take me a long time to go through each section, so it's more of a, as your interest, as your interest kind of send you in that direction, you can take a look at what's there. It's also got all the minutes and such from all the committee meetings, as well as past resolution sessions too. So there's a lot of information on that website. It is really a very well-maintained website. And it's just a great resource for any of our board members as well as myself. I quite often go to this website to look up things too, like I said, past resolutions, and just to see where they're sitting even as well, to see how that, what kind of responses we did receive back. So it's a great information site for you guys.
You must have a full-time person just doing that.
They pretty well do. She's not full-time, but yeah, it's a big job to maintain all of this.
Okay.
And it was a lot of work to set it up initially too, like to get all that information in there. But yeah, as far as the maintenance, putting all those current resolutions in there and keeping the information up to date, yes, it is a lot of work. So. Yeah,
Lots of information in there, I know that.
What's that? Sorry?
Lots of good information in there.
There really is, yeah.
Okay, any more
I'll
discussion?
make a motion to accept for information.
Rick? Any more discussion? All those in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Okay, this is the 6.3 is the municipal district of Greenview Elk Forest depredation letter. I think, have you guys all gone through that one, or?
This was part of the resolutions too, right?
Yes.
I remember my wife was really excited when I was reading
Yeah.
that.
And I know that, this is something that we should be aware of as well, is because the elk population in our area is increasing dramatically every year. Like 10 years ago, you'd see them occasionally, and now, like even at home, we see, herds of 15, 20 on a regular basis now, so. It's something that.
Al Peterson is doing his best.
I know. Yeah. He definitely puts a high level of energy into that.
Yeah.
The only problem is his license only allows him one or two.
Yeah.
So, and I know in the past they've had, what do they call that, intercept feeding programs, Fish and Wildlife, and there's a certain amount of compensation that's there, but I think as it becomes a problem, there's gonna have to be some different tactics to deal with that, so.
Just as a point of interest or question, did Rob request that on grazing leases, because of the elk population in your guys' area, that the season be extended? Okay, I thought I'd heard, thought Ryan said something about You know how that season opens up in December? It closes in November and
Late
then
season,
opens up in
early
December.
season, yeah.
And I thought I'd heard in conversation with Ryan and Tom Govenlock that that part of the rationale for opening that up was that grazing leaseholders had indicated that they all were having an effect on their leases.
We had them a couple of years ago, and it was horrible. Like, there was probably 25 coming in a night, and like they were stalking me because we were having cows like beginning of February, and so like you'd see them in the hay corral, and as soon as I'd get over close to them, they'd run out. And I'd check the cows. By the time I got back home, you could look out, and they're coming across the road to eat. Like, they had me pegged. And the devastation in a night is like incredible.
Sure.
And so we had to go through the whole program, but you know, it's different when it's $80 available, when it's not really available now, like,
Yeah.
or it's like $300. Like, I feel bad for anybody that has elk because they don't leave until the snow's gone. And you can put up fences and you can have dogs and you can stay up all night, but
Do we have a liaise with Fish and Wildlife?
Not a direct, but yes, I do have contacts with them, yes.
Because I think it serves a purpose, you know, and this is just trying to be proactive. It serves a purpose for us to understand this a little better. And I know that Fish and Wildlife bases their allocation of licenses according to, you know, a certain level of population. And if traditionally the level of population in an area is so many, and then we see a 50% increase, I think there should be a conversation with Fish and Wildlife to allocate more licenses, which they can do. And then the second part of it would be, I suppose, would be to bring all of the producers that have an issue with it into the communication place where we can talk about how they do, like up in Peace River, for example, those producers actually invite hunters in to solve that problem. And I think that would be a better solution than having farmers going like, what the hell are you doing here? And so, you know, maybe there's something where we can start having that conversation with Fish and Wildlife to see if we're getting to that threshold. And it may serve a purpose for them to come into this board because we stream these meetings and maybe invite one of the guys in to let us know what different things they're doing.
yeah, my experience with that is that you have to allow other hunters to come in, like when your wife came over, but that's during like that second season.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happens when that closes, like if you're still having trouble in February and March. I don't know
Yeah.
where it goes from there. And
And
that's,
is-
they only allow a couple more people, and you have to already have the tags.
Yeah.
So it's not like your neighbor can just be called up because he's hungry, so.
Well, and I know they have a landowners draw as well. And I
Yeah.
don't know if they have that for elk. They have it for mule deer.
They have it for elk too, but that all has to be kind of like pre-done, hey? Like
Okay.
you have to be applying for that in June. And
Because I know in our area, we probably could get a lot of guys to sign up for
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And I think that may be the alternative, you know, for those, you know, it's something we should discuss with Fish and Wildlife. Because I know that these silos exist, and if we can open those lines of communication, it definitely starts that ball rolling to solve the problem before it becomes a big, big problem.
But even with that landowner's tag, I mean, if it's like mule deer, you have a season. And
Yeah.
as Faye said, you know, they don't, they're like, well, let's go run off in the bush and hide. And then when they can't shoot us, we're gonna come and eat all these bales.
Yeah, no, very true.
the landowner allows you to hunt on your land, but when they're only there to eat and then they run into the grazing lease, it doesn't really help.
Well, and maybe in those real critical areas, they need to have an intercept feed program. So, anyway, good discussion.
Intercept feed that allows a landowner to
Well, what
get rid of
happens?
the problem.
What happens is they have there's a budget, they put a budget out for so much feed, and then what they do is they put feed in areas away from, like, traveling corridors. Elk have kind of traditional traveling corridors, because they're a herd animal. And they'll put feed in places and just keep putting it there to keep them away from the farms. I don't know how well that program works. I know they used to do it. So,
I can invite them to the next meeting, see if we can get some.
yeah, it would be a really good conversation to have, because I know it's gonna become a problem where we're at.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when we travel the river now, we see elk all the time, which wasn't something that happened, you know, a number of years ago, so.
I was snowmobiling 2 Thursdays ago down the McLeod, and there's that herd that runs, you know, back and forth, and there was probably 50.
Yep.
Yeah, they like my neighbor's field, and sometimes he doesn't get that hay taken off, and it doesn't take him long to go through a round bale.
They do a lot of damage. So, yeah, that would be a good idea, Don, if we could do that.
I'll contact them.
All right, so is there anything else that anyone wants to add into that? Then maybe could we have a motion to accept that?
I'll make the motion to have Dawn invite Fish and Wildlife to our next meeting, is that, yeah, next meeting?
Yep.
And discuss about the elk problems, and also accept this for information.
Any more discussion? Not all those in favor? Thank you.
In favor.
Okay, has Carol joined us yet?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there she is. Okay, so let's go back to the delegation 4.1 and have, I guess we'll have Bert and Carol give us an update on how things are going. Take it away.
Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much. It is a rare and distinct pleasure to have the opportunity to be here with the Ag Service Board, and you guys do some awesome work, and this has been a great collaboration right from the very beginning. Dawn and I are very happy to have gotten the direction that we've received so far from our joint subcommittee, and it's great to have someone with Carol's experience and all of that on board, and she's done some great work for us. We basically had the launch for getting everything out to the public at the meeting on Friday, and I was unable to attend, but I know both Dawn and Carol were there, and we have some updates to report, so I'll throw it back to them. And good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Morning, Carol.
How's it going?
Good.
Well, thank you all for letting me attend your event the other evening. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that video that your daughter made. My video, I'm getting a message. I'm just going to turn my camera off. Okay, that's better. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I guess now that the letter's done and ready to go, I guess the first thing I need to do is, we've started to develop a contact list. So Bert and Dawn have been helping me on that. And then I'm going to start communicating with the advertisers. I've started already working on some of the articles. Dawn has sent me some information. Some of the things we want to do are little snippets of information about the county. So we're trying to come up with just little short pieces that can be used as page fillers, different things that are happening in the county that have happened, maybe some historical things. We're also looking into potentially getting some photos from around the region. There's that contest. I'm going to let Dawn talk about that because I don't know a lot about the contest. We did talk about how many content comes. Maybe we'll need a little bit more, and how many pages we end up going. we've talked about different kinds of articles, the succession planning, the generational concerns. That was really brought to light at your evening event from your daughter's video there. I didn't realize there was that big of a concern for the families that want to stay in farming and having to go out and find different jobs. So that's something I'd like to really delve into a little bit more. Some of the things we talked about also were innovation on farming, learning more about, I'm really excited about to learn more about the different things, vertical farming, some of the different options that our farming community has. And then we want to do some things about some of the emerging issues. We talked about like deer and caribou, climate change issues, the feral pigs issues, beavers and such. So we want to do a couple articles on that. So yeah, that's about where I'm sitting. I'll let Dawn talk. Maybe hopefully she can tell us more about the contest and how that's going and what we're going to get from that.
So with the photo contest, it was actually Nikita's baby. So Nikita ran a photo contest last year to get some information or get different photos for our website and to use for different promo stuff. So we have access to those. As far as a contest for the ag profile, we were looking at doing a contest with school children to name the magazine, I guess you could, for better want of a word. So that's something that we still have to set up.
I keep suggesting the Don Fortin Guide to Agriculture, but Don's not very receptive. But I mean, and that was something that I think we talked about at one of those initial subcommittee meetings, is how we can approach the kids. And I think we've even allocated about a $50 big cash prize, I think, as you know, and then the bragging rights and all that good stuff that go with it. So that's probably one of the next pieces that we need to start moving along, as well as Carol starting on the soliciting and all of that. But the pieces are rapidly falling into place, I think, from the brief conversation Dawn and I have had. And I apologize, I haven't had a chance to speak to Carol until the meeting this morning, but I think it was fairly well received at the Ag Service Board event. And Dawn and Carol and I, or Carol and Dawn and I have been meeting once every couple of weeks to make sure we keep some of the bits and pieces moving. So we've got those meetings kind of layered in. And
Just a timeline for the name contest. I've had a conversation with 2 different 4-H groups, and they were wondering when, and I was saying end of March, early April.
This sounds perfect. I mean, the goal on the magazine is to kind of have a rough draft ready by the end of May. So I think anything that we do in advance of that we can align. So those dates sound perfect to me.
Okay, so for the committee, like a few of us had volunteered to go to schools and this and that. Do we need specific direction from the committee, or can we just go and meet with them and start a contest? How do you guys want to handle that?
We can certainly lay out some contest parameters, and I think based on the work that Nikita did last fall, what we found with the photo contest is there are some, well, with the photos especially, I think it was kind of a deeper on the legal side than what we had kind of anticipated. But we've got all that framework and stuff internally. We should be able to make it very simple, but still make sure that everything is, you know, on the up and up and the way that it needs to be. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be pretty easy to put together a one-pager or something like that to take into the schools and turn loose.
And so to that end, I guess where I'm going with this is I'd like a deadline and that one-pager, not to press the panic button, but as soon as possible. And we had talked at the committee level about kind of giving the 4-H kids first crack at it. And so I'd like license to just go and get started on this.
I think that, so our ACDev committee meeting date is March 23rd. So if we needed to have it approved at the ACDev committee, that would be kind of the next available date. We've already had it approved through the subcommittee. So I mean, I think if it's just approving, this is the process. I don't know if it needs to go back to the ECDev committee meeting for a vote, probably just more so for information. So we can probably have something together by, I would say, the 15th, 16th, midweek next week, something like that.
Okay, that's good. I just know personally that March and April are kind of crazy months, so the timing for that is fine. I'm away at that time, so when I get back, then I got a window of time that I can get started. And effectively, really what I'm thinking is we just need a deadline, the format and a deadline, and then I'll make a presentation to those 4-H groups and then leave it in their hands.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, the only thing that I'd like to add to this is that, Carol, you were saying that you were looking for some history, some stories and stuff like that around agriculture, and I'm just wondering if, Greg, if you and I could maybe get together with Carol at some point in time, and because between the two of us on the east side, we've got a pretty good handle on the history and some of those things, and some interesting stories as well, as to how some of the things happened there. So it would be really nice just to put some of them out there for Carol to maybe pursue.
Sure.
And is there a possibility to do that for Anselmo as well? Because and for your area, do you have some colorful characters that we could? You do, Bert?
Well, what I was going to say is, there's one option, and we haven't really kind of discussed this, but I'm going to throw this out to the group. We can collect a range of really good stories, some true, some embellished, some complete falsehoods. And that might be one of the things that we can put forward, is to say, is it true? So we can change the names to protect the guilty and the innocent and all of that. But I mean, this is the really neat thing with this project. And given the world context and everything that we're in, the power of us to tell our own stories is what is incredibly important. And so I just think that, if we use every possible tool we can at our disposal, using some truths, some half-truths, but collecting and building that history in is just going to make it more meaningful and more fun for everybody to be part of it.
And personally, I really wouldn't mind sitting down with Carol and yourself and trying to figure out how we manipulate some of those things, or how we put them together. And I know that you do that through the subcommittee.
Yeah.
And
Well, and so while we have the subcommittee kind of giving the guidance, really it's sort of an administrative working committee, I think, of Dawn, Carol, and myself, and we do have kind of that standing time every second Friday at 10 a.m. So we can use that as a collection and meeting time and that kind of thing as well, because that's time that we have chiseled out on all three of our schedules. So that could be one suggestion, is that if you guys are available this Friday, we could do a group phone call or virtual meeting and maybe start to get some of the content and some of the ideas starting to be written down, and then we could set up a time again to maybe take a look at Anselmo and some of the other areas to start to get some of those fleshed out. Because Carol, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we are definitely at that content collection and building stage.
Absolutely. And the more information I can get, because I can come up with all kinds of ideas, but is it going to be what you guys are going to want to see in the book? So I really appreciate the input. And if you're willing to sit down with me, I am definitely available anytime. Even if it can't be the Fridays, excuse me, anytime. I'd like to start fleshing out some of the stories that we're going to be looking at. As a reporter, I can write stories about pretty much anything, but if it's not going to be what is important to you guys, that's not what we want. So yes, I would love the input from all your members, just even if more about the agricultural industry than I do, but I'll write about it. You just tell me what you want me to write about, and I definitely can write it.
Well, I think it's important that we really cover the county as many people as we can, because the more people that see themselves and see their stories in that pamphlet, the more it's going to be something that we can really expand on, because then they have ownership. And so, how do we do that, I guess, is for me the big question. I'm not good at that kind of thing. So.
Well, I think with the point we're at, setting a meeting time where we can start to take some of the information in makes perfect sense, and we get the naming contest fired off here on all cylinders as quickly as we can, and we've got things starting to come in and advertising information starting to go out, so we're underway.
Just a question: who took this tasty picture that you have on the little pamphlet we had at the supper the other night? It's a very familiar picture.
That'd be me.
Okay. Yeah.
It was at the top of the hill,
Yeah.
top of the hill.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, we had, what was that? It was a picture of just the prairies, I
Yeah.
think. It was kind of a
Being
stock photo that was,
Being a southeastern Saskatchewan boy, it sure reminded me of home, because you could literally see the dog 10 miles away. So, yeah, it didn't quite seem to be the right photo for our area, which is going back to the photo contest and the supply of photos that Don has. It's great that we have as much local content as we possibly can have. So.
Yeah, that's actually on Range Road 70. That's my brother-in-law's place. There's those bales. I can see exactly what that is. But what I found so interesting about the picture is it's so pure, like the clouds, the trees, the green. Like, it's just very, very tasty. So,
Speaking of tasty, like, shouldn't we have the word marshmallow in there somewhere?
yeah, exactly.
actually, that's why I took the photo, because my cousin from Toronto was out, and we were driving around, and he's like, what are those things out in the field? And at the time, we saw green bales, and I said, oh, that's silage or haylage. And then when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God. So I took a picture, I'm like, look, we grow marshmallows too.
Yeah, very creative, very creative. I thought so myself.
So, yeah.
So that's kind of the place where we're at right now. And one of the thoughts that I had was that how do we link this into the Wild Alberta part as well? Like, what is because I think it has some huge benefit.
So we've got a couple of things kind of moving, and we did have the Growth Rita meeting was on Friday of last week. So this is some information that hasn't even been brought forward to our Economic Development Committee yet, but we are going to be making presentations to surrounding municipalities through the Growth Rita to basically reinvigorate the Wild Alberta brand. And as part of that, there's the opportunity to include some videos and to focus on some agricultural tourism opportunities and all of that. So there's kind of a whole kind of next big piece to come with some of that. But I think where this project, I think, can link in is it can help us to identify some of those folks that we may want to approach as operators to be part of Wild. And of course, it does just help us to kind of tie back into the economic development part of things in general to show what our agricultural opportunities are. We had Todd Hirsch, the chief economist for ATB Financial, gave a presentation at our Career Expo meeting a week ago on Thursday. And Todd identified that basically renewable energy and agriculture and agri-food are going to be the two big growth industries for Alberta going forward. So, I mean, that's the importance of it is what I have loved about the project from the beginning of it is the way that it allows us to celebrate what we have, but to identify what the opportunities are. And the idea of the succession planning and all of that, I mean, that's a huge part of things. And there are some economic development resources around succession planning and trying to encourage folks to build and grow on what's already here, as well as we can maybe help to attract some new farmers into new opportunities and all of that. The tie-ins are very strong between the economic development part of it and the agricultural part of it. And so in regards to how can we have this fit into Wild, I think our plan was to have it available for the Open Farm Days event, which will be in August for sure. And we'll have probably 2 or 3 participants within Woodlands County for Open Farm Days again. But it gives us a venue and a way to be able to kind of further open up the exposure for our ag industry, for folks that are doing everything from direct selling to those that are looking for people to invest in and take over the farm.
Yeah, I think it has huge potential for those ag farm days, and you know, there's a lot of interest, and this is one of the things that we can start looking at on the education component, where we actually have kids come out to farms through the school system, and you know, you start linking these together where people can go on a website. Like after I saw what Marvin was doing with that website, I mean. My daughter and I had a long conversation on the way home, and she said, "You could do this, and you could do this, and you could do this." So it was exciting because it starts to profile who we are as in Woodlands County. It's amazing. So,
And then kind of taking that back to, you know, when you look at the economy for Woodlands County as a whole, we have forestry, agriculture, tourism, and energy as kind of our 4 big pillars. And, you know, that was, again, the main impetus for this project is we've always had great things happening around agriculture, but to tie it back to how do we celebrate it and kind of bring in and attract economic development around it, we've never really done that before. So that's where I think this project is spot on, and we've had such great support from both committees and great guidance from the subcommittee. It's coming together.
okay, is there any more questions or?
No, I was just gonna make a motion that the Ag Services Board accept the Ag Profile Project update as information.
Any more discussion? No? All in favor? Thank you
In favor.
very, very much, Carol, for
Thank you.
for giving us that. And I will talk to Bert. I will talk with Bert quick or on the phone and see if we can't get together with you at some point in time in the next little while, just to share our end of it. And maybe if you have anybody that you know that would like to participate in that, because it would really be nice to have, you know, and don't think it needs to be big farms like, you know, like Triggs and yourselves, what you do as people that have small acreages as well. Like, I mean, those stories are so important. So, Bert?
Innovation, consistency, history, those are 3 really strong themes that I think that if we collect the right stories, we can show those really clearly. So I think that for anyone who's got stories around those kinds of things, or one of those great local tall tales, you know, I mean, true or embellished, there's lots of cool stuff that happens here. And it's just gonna be so much fun to kind of get it down and into one place, right? And so I
Need
think
to go
that.
talk to the Cartwrights, huh?
So I think that, you know, we could either make a block of times available, or the easiest thing might be just,
Friday.
yeah, just call us and just say, hey, when can we meet? And we can work out a time at that individual level, and we'll go from there.
So, do you always meet virtually, Bert, or?
We have been. I mean, the thing that we're all trying to be very aware of is time, economics, dollars, all of that. So for the 3 of us, the virtual meetings seem to work fairly well. And
Okay.
it tends to keep Carol and I both well supplied with our own local coffee as well. So that's kind of essential to conducting a good meeting.
Okay.
But I mean, we could do in person, we can have things go to whichever format everybody's the most comfortable with, for sure.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for that. Good discussion. I guess then we can move on to our next item. And that would be the Greenview Grizzly Populations PDF. So is that have you guys had a good look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I remember you saying that you kind of thought the grizz population up in your neck of the woods was more than the numbers they had stated.
Well, there's and this is one of the things that's really quite interesting is that since Mr. Schmidt isn't in Swan Hills anymore, that was kind of one of his pet projects was the grizzly. They put the protections in place, and there's way more sightings, and they're in our area now. So that's basically telling us that the Swan Hills, there's two parts to the puzzle, and I think this is another question that we could have for Fish and Wildlife, is there's two parts to this puzzle, is the logging and forestry operations pushing the grizzly into our areas where they haven't been traditionally for a long time. I know that when I was a kid, they were there, and then they weren't, and now they're back. So is it because the population's increased? But I know that when I was working in Swan Hills, the population that they said there was, and what we were seeing as people working in the field, wasn't the same. There's a lot more grizzly. So we're gonna start seeing those animals, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna create a problem, but the potential is there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the APOs, for example, one of the things that they were very concerned about was the data that was being used, not necessarily for grizzly, but for wildlife populations overall. The data that they were using wasn't what their, like APOs hired their own biologists and their own people, and that did not compare with the province at all. And I guess the conversations that they were having was that a lot of the wildlife allocations for licenses were being determined on motor vehicle collisions with wildlife more than on what the actual, and there's no evidence to that, but that's the argument that I heard when I was there. And so we wonder too whether with bears, being that it's such a volatile, problem, between the people who are protecting and the people that want to actually see the real numbers, whether there isn't a difference there. I mean, they have the same problem with wolves. So.
It's a good thing they're not called caribou.
Pardon me?
Said it's a good thing they're not called caribou.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the types of things that we have to be conscious of, and grizzly range a long ways. But when you're seeing the amount of grizzly that we are seeing in Deer Mountain, for example, which would be more to our side than House Mountain would be towards the Big Lake side, and you see them like they were right down at Ronerville Laparges. So, and Evan Fleming actually had 2 in his yard last year. So they're starting to expand.
Yeah, there's
I'm
one.
not sure if I can add something to that, Peter.
On his grandma's.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
I was just going to say, we're like I obviously work in Swan Hills, and I'm Passaway Stream Plant towards Roach Lake, actually quite a ways, and we see lots of bears. Like you can see a sow and 2 cubs and a boar in the same day almost every day up here now. When I first started, you'd be lucky to see 1 a year. Now we log leases while they watch us. So the bears, they're not really scared of anyone. There was that one that was trapped at my grandma's house. I don't know if you guys all heard about that or not, but that one was quite aggressive and chasing dogs at the neighbor's house and at her house, and it was quite a problem it became. So I think it's something we should be aware of. And she's not, to the north, it's crown land there, but she's quite a ways into farmland, so it obviously traveled through some people's places to get there. So I think we should be very aware of this because it's not the only one. I know there's some across the river on trail camera towards Camp Creek, and Marithorpe's got quite a lot of sightings of them, and I'm sure around Whitecourt as well. So I think this is something that we should be keeping our eye on.
So I guess we can actually address that issue with Fish and Wildlife as well when they come to our meeting. So that's a good discussion. Thanks, Devin. Go ahead, Al.
Do we want to, rather than just accept this as information, do we want to write a letter of support? Or are we not there yet?
Because I don't know, you know, the point that they make in that letter is that the range of those animals is huge. So I mean, a bear that's in Fox Creek could end up in Port Assiniboine. So I'm just wondering, like, whether once we have a talk with the Fish and Wildlife, whether we shouldn't share that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we should make a motion to move this to discussion with Fish and Wildlife. But I also think a second part of this, just given that we do live in bear country and there is, you know, obviously the populations, is we should have a little bit more of like an information drive put out to the public as far as what to do to try to keep your property more bear safe too. Because I know there's a lot of them come in because people aren't really diligent with where they leave stuff or what they leave out. So.
If I can add a little bit to Dave's comment too, we have a lot of people moving out from Edmonton and different areas as well to our communities. So I think maybe even some information maybe through Nikita or I know we do those little kind of quick courses or whatever online or whatever. It might be something worth kind of rolling out, because I don't know how many people actually believe that there are grizzlies in Woodlands County. There's lots that are very skeptical because they've never seen one. So like Dave said, they're not being bear smart. They're not prepping their place for it, and they come from Edmonton. I'm not being rude towards them or anything, but you just don't grow up around that. Sometimes you don't know. So some education probably wouldn't hurt.
Al, go ahead.
So I'd like to make a motion that the Ag Service Board accept the MD of Greenview letter on grizzly populations as information, and that we refer this discussion to our consultation with Fish and Wildlife with the plan to educate our public on bear safety.
Does that sound good? Any more discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
To that, Don, maybe it would serve purpose for us to give whoever comes in from Fish and Wildlife a heads up as to what we're going to be putting on their plate.
Added it
Oh,
to
you,
my
I see you right
already.
there, so, okay, thank you. All right, the 6.5 on the synthetic fertilizer emissions letter from Flagstaff County. There's Carson County in there, Lesser Slave, and Cypress County that have letters. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? Greg?
Well, when I first read all this, you know, it goes back to Justin. The sooner he leaves, the better. But I think we should also support these guys with a letter, I guess, or something. Because to reduce our fertilizer is not good. Like, you know, it just your crops go down, and we're trying to feed more people all the time, and it just doesn't make sense. But so I think we should support them if we can, or if it's not too late or whatever.
If I could add, this letter is actually in response to letters that we already sent.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
So we had
Yeah.
sent some back in the fall, I think.
Yeah.
We had sent a letter with regards to this issue,
Mhm.
and now these letters that are coming in are in support of that letter.
Oh, okay.
So,
So
yeah.
we've already done that.
We have,
Okay.
not to say it's not important, but yeah, we had already did that and done that, and these are just additional support letters that we're receiving, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave?
I just like, we've had this conversation before, and I just feel that this big push to cut down the emissions from the federal level, they haven't really taken into account the fallout from every one of the industries coming out. They keep looking at the big manufacturing players and everything else, but they're not looking at your ag sector, they're not looking at your forestry sector, they're not looking at everything that helps drive the rest of the economy that keeps going. And unfortunately, I mean, I know something needs to change, because from an ag end, like, this could be detrimental to a lot of people.
Yep.
But we'll say, until something happens at a federal level, or somebody actually acknowledges what they're doing with these caps and everything they're putting on and all the extra levies on it, I really don't think there's gonna be much change. You know, unfortunately, I think we can lobby all we want, we can get all the information out there. I mean, the letters are out, we have the support letters, but until somebody federally starts listening to it and starts actually looking at the fallout of this, I don't think we're gonna get a whole lot of traction, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess, you know, with the protocols that they have in place right now, I guess that's the, you know, fundamentally the backbone of this whole thing, and you know, unfortunately, it's detrimental to the ag industry. And so, you know, it's kind of nice to see that, if I remember right, there was only one letter at the time when we supported this, right?
Yeah.
And so it's good to see that there's a few other municipalities now that are having a look at this and saying, yeah, you know what? Because I would suggest that this probably would go through the Ag Services Board resolutions and push rather than through the RMA. Would that be correct?
I would think so, yes.
So that's possibly where we would end up with this. You know?
I agree with that's the logical venue, but like Dave is saying, you know, so that goes to the province. If we want to talk to the feds, perhaps we should be looking at the RMA and then the FCM. Because, I mean, you're gonna need enough push, you're gonna need enough buy-in locally, but then to push it on. It's not like we're gonna change the Fed's mind in 6 months, but reading those letters, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, why would you restrict when you could do it on a use or pay type of system? But I just, again, to reiterate what Dave's saying, you know, our audience is Ottawa, and the way to do that is through the FCM. But we'd have to go RMA first, and then.
So would we, Don, would we put this this kind of a thing in a you know, seeing as that we do have some tractions from some of these other counties, would it serve a purpose for us to get this to the RMA level, just to have a look at that? Or do we do it through the Ag Services? It's going to be a slow process. Do we do it through the Services Board first?
My personal opinion would be taking it to the Ag Service Board level first.
Okay.
If it already hasn't been, I was just checking to see, and I couldn't do a quick search to find it, but I can do a little more research to see if it hasn't been already to the board level, or to the Provincial Ag Service Board level. Just because then it means that we have the support of the ag industry.
Yeah.
Not that we don't,
Yeah.
obviously, but it just kind of shows the progression going forward. That would be my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
And just as a point for anybody watching this who obviously hasn't seen the letters, like, most of these letters are all addressed to the Premier, to the Minister of Agriculture, to whatever, like, the high-ranking officials in office have got these letters too, so they are aware of our concerns.
Whether they read them is a
Yeah, well, that's true. I'm saying
They got them. Well, and I guess that if that's the way we should go, let's see if there has been any push to do that, and if not, let's figure out how we start to move that wagon.
And actually, Jen just mentioned that they have been reviewing synthetic fertilizers in the House of Commons in the last week here, so
Oh,
maybe they are paying attention, we just don't know it.
Okay.
They're not having a two-way conversation, so. So it'll
What,
be interesting to see.
how did you find that out?
It was on the radio,
On the really?
96, 97.9. Yes, they were
This-
talking about it in the House of Commons.
Well, that's good news.
so obviously there's been some movement there. Go ahead, Sal.
So perhaps on this, I mean, we can certainly accept this as information, but to find out where it's sitting, you know, maybe we need to call into our MP. And so was that in the House or was that at committee level, do you know?
No, it was in the House of
In the
Commons.
House, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that would be a,
Because perhaps everything that we were trying to do has already been done
Yeah.
and it's there already.
yeah, just find out for us, Don, and then.
Is that
we can
a call
actually-
to that Arnold, what's his name?
Pierce.
What's his name? That's his middle name, I think. So I'd make a motion that the Ag Service Board accept the Flagstaff County, Carson County, Lesser Slave River, and Cypress County synthetic fertilizer emission letters of concern as info.
Any more discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
In favor.
Okay. Thanks, guys. All right, we're down at the reports, and one of the things that I would like to say, and this is for, because we're streaming, a lot of people don't know today is International Women's Day. And we should acknowledge at a service board level how much the women contribute to the betterment of agriculture. One of the things that I found very interesting, you know, going through the Ag Service Board, part of it, our Ag Service Board supper is that you don't really realize the contribution that is there because there is such a gender inequality that, you know, we've been striving for years, and I just want to say that from my chair, I really appreciate the work that you guys do. So if there's any other reports, does anybody have anything else that they want to tell?
Just a couple of things. I wanted to talk a little bit about the provincial conference that we attended. I know Greg was, but before I do that, I just wanted to, I don't know if apology is the right word, but I just wanted to bring it out that, you know, I had a conflict on Friday that prevented me from going to the supper, and I was, I chose the other option, obviously. It was a family-related event, and I was really looking forward to coming to the supper and seeing some people that I hadn't seen for a while. So I apologize for not being in attendance on Friday.
And you
But-
missed a good deal.
Well, that's what I've heard, yeah. I mean, the attendance, there was over 100 people, and I hear the comedian was funny, and I was really looking forward to seeing Anna's presentation. And then, you know, looking at the list of the pioneers, et cetera, there was some folks there that I haven't seen for a while, so I was disappointed, but you can only be in one place at one time. And to your point earlier, Greg, you know, what I chose was not on the level of a daughter winning an award, but it was family oriented. And as I get more gray hairs, I realize that family really needs to take priority, and so that was the choice. But back to the conference. This is going to sound kind of trivial, but I think one of the big highlights for me was Danny Hooper. He just got the program moving along, and he was real, and he was funny, and he was real funny at times. And yeah, so he was a real treat to sit there and listen to him poke fun at different presenters that were coming up, and you know, throw in a tidbit of wisdom now and then as well. And it's National Women's Day today. There was one presentation by a lady that married into a farm family. I think she came from Lethbridge. She was a city girl anyway, and married in, and all of a sudden found herself in the middle of a farm operation, and she was looking for help from other people that might have stepped into those shoes, and she scoured the internet and couldn't really find anything, so she started a blog, and that blog has since grown into a really popular item for a lot of farm moms and farm wives, and so that was an inspiring story. And then the other highlight for me undoubtedly was to watch how the resolutions rolled through. I just didn't have the concept of what the function of that provincial conference was, and it's exactly the same as the RMA and the resolution sessions that we sit through. So that was what was really productive for me. You can read the resolutions and draw your own surmise, but to hear the delegates around the room speak to it, both in favor and against, gave me a good understanding of the current issues in the province, and some of them, were ongoing. So that was a real highlight as well. And I'm done.
Do you have any?
Well, I really enjoyed Friday night. Claire's presentation was really good, and it was great to be out with people again. Like, I was amazed at how many came, because most people are like, "Are we allowed to go out now?" And it was really good. Yes.
Again, egg service at dinner there was great. The entertainer was really good. It was nice to see a lot of people out for the dinner and the presentations and stuff. I definitely love seeing people from the community getting awards for everything from the Pioneer Awards for being in the community for a long time to just something like the Beautification Awards that help highlight just the amount of work that people put into their properties to actually make them what they are later. From the egg service conference, my big takeaway from that, the part that I really enjoyed, was the Squeal on Pigs presentation they showed, just showing how much of a problem it can actually be for producers and landowners and stuff in the area, and we do have them where we are, and the unfortunately lack of support it seems that we've been getting from the province to try to help with this, and how it's basically down to municipalities, and we're doing what we can. They say even south of the border there, down in the States, I mean, they don't want the pigs moving south, so they've been trying to help out where they can also. But just crazy how smart and how I guess they spread, they grow, the populations are just get out of hand in a hurry.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts on the Ag Service Board or the Ag Service Board conference were much the same as Al's. And what surprised me was how quickly the levity of Danny Hooper migrated into the whole group. That was one of the happiest, fun places to be, because even some of the resolutions, the dryness of that, he would come in and you were always picked up again just from goofy stuff that he did. So that was really good. The other part that was unique was that they just started doing it. Faye and I were able to sit in on the chair and co-chair group that got together to discuss some of the regional issues that everybody had, and there's a lot of commonalities. And so what they're going to do is, I think, the consensus was that they're going to actually do that next year again, which is good for us, because then we can prepare for it as an Ag Service Board. We can say, hey, yeah, these are some of the things that we would like to bring to the table. So that was really, for me, was kind of interesting, because even though we may live in this, the North Central region, some of the guys that were in South Central had some of the same issues. I think one of them was draining, even, which is at an RMA level should be a concern, draining ponds and stuff into the ditches, which creates a huge problem downstream. And so how we need to educate our producers on that, that was a highlight. The biggest one for me was the different stories that were there. These stories don't need to be, from my perspective, don't need to be told to those that are already, confirmed into agriculture. They need to be told to those that aren't. And so that, for me, that would be the next step, to figure out how do we get that to our urban brothers and sisters, because they're the ones that are gonna decide our future given the circumstances that are there right now. And so that was what motivated me more to thinking, is how do we, what are the mechanisms that we're going to use to do that? So that was for me, the Ag Service Board convention was really good. And by the way, for the Ag Service Board supper, what you need to do, and Mr. Kush, is bring more of your friends, because that was so enlightening. I had 2 or 3 older people come and say, we wish we were young again. And that's one of the things that I found, was that we really need to do a job with our young people in our communities to get them to come to these things, because it is a tradition that I would like to see them have, co-author, if you want to put that out, because in 10 years, you can be guaranteed we're going to be the ones that are sitting there enjoying the stuff that they do. So
you're being proactive then?
yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that, Devin, are you listening? That some of the younger people come to these suppers, because I think they had good fun, and there was a lot of effort that Don and James and Jen put in to have all of those. I think we had 2 tickets left in the pot after all the door prizes. So
Is that right?
yeah, so it was good. So thanks for that.
Yeah. I was going to add something to that too, Peter, but I want to make sure you're done.
Yeah, I'm finished. Thank you.
I was going to comment on that as well. The amount of work that everyone obviously put into that supper was great. That's the first one I've ever been to, and I don't know why that is really, but I definitely will be going to that regularly, because it was a lot of fun, and seeing the awards and all the pictures for the beautification awards displayed like that, I thought that was a really good idea. I assume that was done every year. All the awards, the amount of door prizes there was crazy. Like you said, I think almost everybody went home with a prize. I thought Peter did a fantastic job, and with the kind of piggybacking on Peter's comments there, the younger people, I don't know how we can do that, but it would be awesome if we could somehow incorporate some local people presenting like that. With Anna doing hers, she did a great job. That was such an amazing video, and I don't know how we can draw more people into presenting something, maybe not quite on that scale. Obviously that's quite high level, but even have some groups present, or 4-H or something. I don't know what that would be, but having some local younger people, it sure makes the older ones there really enjoy that as well. I think I feel like that helped out with that. But that's about all I had. Just job well done, and it was really good.
Just one quick comment off of Devin's there. I do actually like the idea of trying to get, for getting the younger people in there. Maybe for the next Ag Service Board, the dinner, if we reach out to the 4-H, and even just a small, it could be even just a video presentation or something they do, but just to show the stuff that they've done in the area and kind of highlight what their groups do or something, just to show. It might, if the parents and stuff from those kids who are obviously in our community and stuff to see, know that something's coming up or whatever from a presentation made by that group, it might help get some more of the locals and stuff in there too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like the older farmers in the community that were there, like the age, the average age was a bit bit up there. I would say not all older people, but
You can say
It-
old.
Careful,
Yeah.
careful.
yeah. I gotta really be careful. I gotta really be careful here. But I think that generation of farmers enjoy seeing the younger people being involved in it as well, right? That a lot of the people that were in that room, that's been their life. Farming has been their life. So to see some younger ones getting involved in that, or what they're doing, or some way to incorporate that, I think they would actually enjoy that. I think it would be a good thing for that supper.
Yeah, and I think, and this is something that I was just gonna comment on now, just listening to the conversation, is that ag profile gives us already gives us some a place to get in there with our kids, you know, the program you're gonna have with the 4-H and students. I think that already is a good vehicle to bring younger people in. And I think there's another part of it that would work really well is that we have a lot of you know, creative, artistic people in our community, and we could probably, you know, have some kind of a, you know, some music, some arts and stuff like that could be
Skit.
highlighted as well.
Yeah, yeah, and just to that point of local flavor, getting back to 4-H, I think they still have public speaking in their program, and I wonder if, like, that's, you know, depending on how comfortable those winners are, but, you know, to speak in front of 100 people is a little different than their chairs, but that's another idea that we can toss into the basket to kick around, because
Yeah.
Would we be able to, like, have a bigger presence perhaps at Achievement Day? Like 4-H Achievement Day?
that's a great idea.
Really
Like,
good
our
idea.
neighbors to the south are fairly large in it, and it kind of comes with understanding because a lot of the members are from Lac-Saint Anne County, but we also have like a lot of Anselmo kids, right? Some are Merthorpe, some are Anselmo. It's hard to know which club you belong to because you can go to any. And we have a few in Whitecourt, maybe not so much in agriculture anymore, but certainly a few in horse. And I just think that would be a great thing, like whether we could support, you know, some book awards or prizes or,
Yeah, it's almost a no-brainer, isn't it?
yeah, like it's
We
those
could,
kids do a great job. Like they work hard and like the morning starts at 6:30 with breakfast and you're lucky if you're out of there at 10 o'clock at night by the time stuff is cleaned up, and like the day just kind of goes by and you're just like, this is amazing, like watching all these young farmers do their stuff. And it is more beef, but there was, you know, sheep as well and some goats for a while, but it's like, this
but I
is
think
awesome.
that's a really good point, that participation, and I think that could be something that we could do at Ag Service Board celebrations as well, is acknowledge these 4-H kids as much as we acknowledge the pioneers and the, you know, just acknowledge, you know, bring them up, like these kids did this, and this.
Yeah,
I think that would bring some of those families to the table as well.
Sure it would,
Really
yeah.
good idea.
I know they've, like when my kids were in it, I made a point to coming to the county and like, will you sponsor an age category or whatever? And they did, like,
sure.
it was great. But I don't know in the last couple of years, like, since I'm not doing that anymore, if it still happens or not.
Yeah, and so I sit on that Whitecourt Ag Services Board, and one of the representatives, one of the board members is the local club, so I have been talking to her, and so they do, you know, they have a program of events for sure. It's different, maybe a different focus than what it used to be, but so they're active, and I know out Dave's way, they're active out there too.
Well, it'd be great to do something like that. I guess that's something we can kind of formulate ideas with those of you who have always been tasked with the logistics.
I know this year's, well, I call it like Lac-Saint Anne, which is, but I guess it is June 6th. It's the first Monday, every year at the Marathorpe Egg Barn.
Okay.
And when we're acknowledging our 4-H clubs, I think it's important to acknowledge those people like yourself that are providing that opportunity for the kids. You know,
Yeah, 4-H is a tough, it just adds another element to we don't have one in the fort anymore because we don't have anybody actively pushing
Yeah.
that. It's,
you know,
I
Tash,
know that my son in Spruce Grove, he has an acreage 6 kilometers north of Spruce Grove, and both his daughter and his little guy are in 4-H now. Just, because that's what they do. They found a community of farmers that they got in with, and we just watched her public speaking. Amazing, those kids, like how much they do now.
There's probably more urban, I would say half and half of urban, like life skills versus animals. Because like
Yes.
there's nothing you can't do. You can do, if you can find a leader, it's out there.
Yeah.
If you want to build Lego, you want a mountain bike.
They had a fishing 4-H club at the fort at one time. And it was like you wouldn't believe the participation they had in that.
you're getting excited now, aren't you?
Yeah. I can do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, good discussion. So is there anything else before we get into the Ag Services Manager's Report? You good with that, Greg?
Yep, it was very good. Thanks, guys.
Do we need a motion to accept the board member reports and questions as info?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I'll make that motion.
Any more discussion?
I had a comment
Go ahead.
to what Dave said about the squeal on pigs. They'd had that video right at the very beginning. Dawn, you might know, I don't know if Greg would be interested in it, the one of that little piece of grain or, that was gonna be combined in Saskatchewan there.
Yeah.
And then, all the pigs started coming out of it
Oh,
and
I
you're
seen that.
counting them and you're just like, in that swath, that's how many, I don't know if you
It
could
was
find
it was a corn thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen that before.
That was crazy.
Why didn't they have a big trap at the end? They would have run right into it. Yeah, I seen that. That was something.
Yeah, there's like 40, 50, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just getting
Yeah,
running
and
out of
you
there in
think-
a matter of seconds.
Like what's they're gonna be there 4 or 5 or 2, right? Because it doesn't look like that much,
Yeah.
but it was just astounding.
Okay, so I'll call a question on Al's motion. All in favor? Carried. Then we get,
In favor.
thanks, Devin. Then we get Dawn to give us her update.
Okay. So, as we've already talked about, the Provincial ASB conference was at the end of January there. And I think overall we had a fairly successful conference. Our region was hosting it, so we got a lot of positive feedback from people. So it was a lot of work. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning almost every day and not going to bed till the wee hours, but it was worth it in the end. We did have some really good speakers, as you guys mentioned, with the Wild Rose farmer is who you were referring to,
Right.
Al, and we had that Amberly Snyder. She was a young lady that was actually injured in a vehicle accident, and she ended up being paralyzed from the waist down, and she was a barrel racer, and she found a way to ride again. So she was quite inspirational as to how she was able to get back on the horse and figure out a way to strap her onto the saddle so that she could do the barrel racing. So that was pretty cool to see.
Was she in Yellowstone?
Yes,
Was she?
yes.
One
And
of-
she's also got a Netflix movie
Yeah.
that was done by her, about her too.
One
She
of
was
the
in
things that I
Yellowstone?
found very interesting when she said, just to add to that, Dawn, is that one of her presentations, she was in a school and this little boy asked her, if you could go back in time, would you, wish that you were not in this accident? And her answer was, no, I wish that I would have my life that I have now, which was to me powerful. That she had met so many good people and she'd overcome those things. it was very inspirational in that way.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, so, yeah, so as you can expect, much of my time was dedicated to the conference in January. So, we also had our planning meeting for our Stewardship Alliance for Conservation Agriculture, which is our conservation partnership with Yellowhead County and the West Central Forage Association. So just putting together some workshops and things that are coming up, and figuring out where we're gonna go for this coming year. So we've got, like I said, a few workshops, I'll mention those in a little bit later. We had our Squeal on Pigs program, a virtual meeting on the 17th of February, just to discuss the program and the grant funding that we have available until February 2023. And so the plan is to continue with the expansion of the communications for that program. So we've got the billboard out. I don't know if anyone has ever seen it. It's on Highway 16 just by Wabaman. They've erected a billboard to raise awareness on Squeal on Pigs. At our supper, we gave away 3 door prizes with t-shirts, and in our office, we've got stickers, we've got wrap cards, we've got all kinds of stuff. So we're just gonna really promote that. Nikita's been promoting it as well through Facebook and on our website. So really just getting the word out. They've been also attending, the staff from the Alberta Invasive Species Council have been attending events throughout 2021 as well, and doing media articles. So the plan also is to do a Squeal on Pigs forum coming up on May 11th, I believe. Yeah, May 11th is the date we've chosen for that. So somehow I'm doing a presentation. How is that? So I've actually been asked to do a presentation next week at the annual meeting for the Alberta Invasive Species Council on wild boar and the Woodlands County experience, I guess you could say. What we've been doing, what our program has been like over the past basically 20 years that I've been here. So I'll just be doing a presentation there and then duplicating that in the Squeal on Pigs forum. So part of the AGM will also be like a question and answer kind of interactive forum. So I'll be participating in that as well. And like, I guess, a panel discussion. So yeah, so that's interesting. I haven't done a wild boar presentation for several years, so yeah, I got it done. So we'll see how it goes. They may change their mind about the forum on May 11th after hearing the one next week. I don't know. But so that's coming up. We have also several webinars and workshops that have been planned in partnership with with some other municipalities and organizations. So we have Elaine Froze coming. She's going to do a webinar for us on basically farm transition, finding fairness in farm transitions. So that's the multi-generational, as Carol was mentioning. And in fact, I'm actually going to send Carol the link for the webinar so she can maybe sit in on that and just get some more information as to how that process looks. So I've seen Elaine at a conference before, so I'm really looking forward to her presentation. She does a very thorough discussion on that topic. So that'll be March 15th at 7 p.m. and that is a free workshop. We're doing this in conjunction with several other research organizations, I guess, throughout the province. So that one, and that's through our SACA group, our conservation group. And then we've also planned an environmental farm plan workshop on the 24th, and that's an afternoon session where people can come out, and if they haven't started a farm plan, they can start their farm plan, or if they need to update the one that's currently in place, because they do need to be updated consistently. So it's just an opportunity for people to come out and get some information and get some help with their plans. So that'll be in our the Fort office from 1 till 5 on the 24th. And then lastly, we are going to be continuing with our Getting into Horticulture webinar series. We did 2 workshops last year. This one coming up in, at the end of March is going to be how to choose land for that horticulture, for field crop production, basically, from the horticulture perspective. So that one's coming up as well. And I've attached all the information sheets that we've developed. The one for the getting into horticulture, that one should be out this week, so I'll send that to everybody when we get the ad put together for that. So what else? So I'll be taking our Incident Command 200 training as part of the emergency response mandate for the county. We tried to do that 2 years ago, and then that was when everything got shut down. We literally were sitting in this room waiting to do it, and we had the emergency management people from the province, and they were pulled upstairs, and then we were all sent home. So we're gonna try it again, coming up here in April. And also we're going to be hiring 2 individuals for summer staff positions, so we'll be doing those interviews this weekend, or this Friday. And one position is a returning staff member, so Sherry will be joining our team again this season, and then we'll be having a new hire. And that'll be, of course, dependent on those interviews that we're doing. So those people will be starting mid-May-ish and continuing until the end of August. Typically, we do carry one contract a little bit longer to assist with our beaver control in the fall. So that usually ends at about the end of September with that one, September, October. We have not received verification on our grant for the Mountain Pine Beetle program yet, so I'm kind of waiting in limbo on that, and I know we're not the only county. Brazeau County and Yellowhead County, last I spoke to them, had also not received any kind of confirmation, so we're not sure if that grant is coming. And just to quell any concerns, our Mountain Pine Beetle program will not proceed without that grant. What we get in the grant is what we spend for the program, so it's not gonna have a budgetary impact. For us, it's basically in and out kind of a thing, so. And then lastly, I'm gonna be working on getting our roadside mowing contract bid package together. So that's on my very high to-do list this week to get that done, so we can get that contract out and in place before they need to start this summer. So other than that, like I mentioned, I've got the posters for the upcoming workshops attached, and then the information for the Getting into Horticulture program as well. Oh, and our Squeal on Pigs forum as well is in there too. So all that information is in your package. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Don? Dave?
Don't see any questions here. I'll make a motion to accept the manager's report for information.
Any more discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay. So I guess we have one last motion that we need to entertain. Dave?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
You? All those in favor?
In favor.
Thanks, Devin.